The chamber was impossibly vast, an obsidian amphitheater suspended above the clouds of a neutral moon, built by no single species, but all of them together. Towering spires of polished bone and metal curled inward, and every seat, curved, cushioned, translucent, was filled with delegates, warlords, observers, and enemies. Species with faces and species with none. All of them watching. In the center stood a raised platform, 6 meters wide, rimmed with golden vine light. And in its middle, 3 gallows waited. Simple wood, human style, an insult by design. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, a million voices chittering, pulsing, vibrating across languages and lungs. And from the ceiling, carved in molten iron, hung a banner, Justice for the Stars. The guards arrived first, 12-foot insectoids with halberds that pulsed with heat. Behind them came the prisoners, escorted in chains, but walking without fear. General Dawson moved like a butler, gray at the temples, spine straight, every step measured. His expression polite, almost amused, as if he were being led to tea. General Huxley followed, her boots dragging slightly, face unreadable, but her eyes alive with calculations. She wore her court-martial dress uniform, pressed and spotless, though her sleeves had been burned off in capture. Scars lined her arms like thin metals. Last was General Ramos, taller, broader, smiling like a grandfather at his own funeral. He paused once to nod at a shrieking ambassador whose species had 6 tongues. They were led to the gallows without ceremony. The ropes hung slack, waiting. Their names were announced in 56 languages. Earth's war architects. The final 3. Let them swing, and the stars may rest easy. Presiding over the execution stood Isar, High Arbiter of the Vascari Dominion. His skin was scaled and blue-black, and his mouth curved permanently downward. He stood atop a hovering disk, claws steepled, voice like oiled stone. The galaxy speaks with one voice today, he began, letting the acoustics amplify his tone to a godlike boom. A voice that condemns the human disease. A rumble of agreement rolled through the tiers of alien observers, some slapping limbs in applause, others blinking approval with bioluminescent pulses. We offered them membership. They spat on it. We offered truce. They smiled, then attacked. They disguised war as diplomacy, and diplomacy as jokes. And now he gestured at the gallows. They hang. General Ramos cleared his throat. If I may, High Arbiter. You may not. Ramos smiled wider. I was only going to say can't blame us for having a sense of humor. Scattered chuckles. Some delegates stifled them. Isar bared his fangs. You jest now at the end? Ramos shrugged. Only way to go, sir. Isar ignored him. Any final words? He said sharply, glancing at Dawson. Dawson tilted his head, thoughtful. Just one, if the court will indulge. Isar waved a claw, impatient. Dawson stepped forward, voice calm and warm, like a bedtime story. Do you know the thing about ants? He asked, tone conversational. If you crush one, the others watch. They scatter. They hide. But if you let them carry off their dead, they remember the shape of your boot. A murmur ran through the chamber. I always liked ants. Very human creatures. Organized. Patient. Unassuming. But underneath, absolutely ruthless. Isar clicked. This is meaningless. Just context, Dawson replied. For what happens next? General Huxley leaned slightly toward her mic. He means to say, we let you win. The laughter returned. High, cruel, echoing. The crowd had missed this kind of mockery. Humiliation. And why, Isar asked coldly, would apex predators submit to the noose? Ramos offered a wink. Because you hung the wrong humans. Silence. Then 1,000 translations caught up. The ropes were drawn tight. Each general stood calmly, hands bound. The nooses were tugged, adjusted. A final countdown began in soft chimes, echoing across the dome. 10. Huxley blinked once. Ramos exhaled. 9. Dawson closed his eyes. 8. In the stands, Counselor Bleen of the Miri Federation leaned forward, his gelatinous form trembling. 7. 6. A slight hum began, unnoticed at first, beneath the floor, beneath the system. a frequency not heard but felt. 5. On thousands of alien datapads, a symbol blinked into life. A circle within a square. Red pulsing. 4. In the security bay, screens flickered, one by one, blacking out. Across a dozen ships in orbit, Earth-side protocols began to decrypt. 3. 2. Bleen croaked. What is that sound? 1. The floor dropped. The nooses jerked. 3 bodies hung suspended, still. For several seconds, no one moved. Then the chamber erupted in cheers. The great experiment, humanity, was finally extinguished. High Arbiter Isar smiled for the first time in 200 years. Let the record show. He stopped. Behind him, a projection had activated on its own. A human symbol. Not military. Not political. Corporate. Cortex Armory Solutions. Authorized failsafe initiated. Then a voice. Soft. Feminine. Calm. Genocide protocol. Phase 1 confirmed. Execution verified. Lockstep initiated. The air changed. Not in temperature, but in weight. It became heavy. Isar spun. What is this? On the floor below the gallows, General Dawson's body twitched. But it didn't twitch like death. It twitched like a man removing something uncomfortable. Suddenly, the face peeled away. A synthetic skin. A decoy. The real Dawson, elsewhere, smiled from a secure location, watching the feed. His voice echoed from the hologram now projected across the chamber. You executed actors, he said gently. We appreciate your performance. The alien crowd sat frozen. What had been a celebration began to taste like ash. You laughed at the rope, Dawson continued. But you never asked why we brought it. Behind him, on a secondary feed, images began to stream. Planets going dark. Stations imploding. Systems unraveling like folded paper. You never understood humanity, he said. You thought we loved war. We don't. We just hate bullies. Somewhere in the stands, Bleen began sobbing. Huxley's decoy hung limply. Still. But her voice, too, now played across the chamber. We wanted peace, she said. We gave it. Again and again. And every time you poked us, cut us, laughed at us. The voice paused. You shouldn't have laughed. Isar slammed his fist against a panel. Cut the feed. Kill the signals. But nothing responded. Cortex had bypassed every failsafe. A second voice chimed in, this one male, sharp mocking. Hey, aliens. You hang our brass? We hang your planets. In orbit, the Tztalik fleet started blinking out. Ships folding in on themselves. A synthetic plague embedded in their firmware. Gifted long ago in a peace treaty. Below the gallows, a final transmission appeared on every screen. Genocide protocol. 12% complete. Estimated fulfillment, 18 hours. Dawson's face lingered on the projection. A still frame now. Calm. Sympathetic. Like a friend telling you goodbye. Then one last phrase appeared beneath it. Earth doesn't threaten. Earth ends things. The chamber was silent now. No one laughed. The silence, after the feed cut, was more terrifying than the execution. On the crystalline deck of the Tztalik command ship Victory Maw, Commander-elect stood motionless, mandibles twitching. The screens around him had all gone dark, except one. A single phrase floated against a black backdrop in pale human font. Genocide protocol. 12% complete. The digits ticked up like a heartbeat. Give me the Earth Systems analyst, he barked, voice shrill with fury. Now. Behind him, his crew, scaled, plated, antennae quivering, watched with confused terror. They had not feared the humans. Not really. They had feared being embarrassed by them, as one fears being bitten by a pet. Now the pet had grown fangs. Alec clenched his claws. They tricked us with a puppet show. From across the galaxy, fragments of panic were coming in, quietly, at first. Diplomatic channels stuttering. Trade routes dropping. Civilian transports disappearing mid-jump. At least 16 worlds had gone offline in the last hour. No explosions. No distress calls. Just silence. The kind that felt intentional. In orbit above Alec's command ship, One of the outer satellites suddenly flared and blinked out. Not detonated, erased. A soft blue shimmer, then gone. The room dimmed. From the side of the deck, a new voice spoke, calm, cautious. "They're not retaliating, Commander." It was Riva of the Silani Scholars, a long-bodied serpentine creature draped in ceremonial bands. Her eyes blinked sideways, softly glowing. "They're executing a doctrine." Alec turned, flaring his arms. "Nonsense. This is panic-born myth. Earth was broken. Their generals hung. We broadcast it. We won." Riva didn't flinch. "And yet this." She gestured to the screen. 13%. He spun to the communications array. "Where is our analyst?" The analyst, a short, twitchy biped from a mining colony, ran in breathless, clutching a half-melted datapad. "Yes, sir. I dug through their old war files. Earth has used this term before. Not in space. Not in diplomacy. But in simulation. Speak plainly. They called it Genocide Protocol in 2081. It was theoretical. A failsafe. Based on preemptive neutralization of existential threats." Alec narrowed his compound eyes. "Weapons? No. Code. Worms. Signals. Systems that sleep until triggered." A second screen came online. It showed a children's hospital on the tranquil world of Illum 9. In the background, a TV played something, bright colors, bouncing humans. Then the colors sharpened, and the screen turned white. The hospital blinked out of the feed. Everyone in the room stopped moving. "They buried warheads in software," Riva whispered. "Impossible." Riva turned to him. "No. Brilliant. Hide war not in ships, but in gifts. Translations. Technology. Embassies. Toys." Alec scoffed. "Then we simply undo it. Purge it. Kill the humans and crash their systems." Another screen activated. A human voice, gentle, vaguely maternal. "Hello. This is Sarah. Thank you for using Cortex Harmony. You cannot opt out of this process. May you find rest." Then static. A new report came in from a Credari station on the rim. Half their planetary AI had self-deleted. Ships refusing pilot control. Nanoforges melting down their own infrastructure. Alec's voice cracked. This isn't war." "No," said Riva, her voice low. "It's memory. They let us write their obituary, and then press play." Across the deck, a young lieutenant collapsed into a kneel. His claws shook. "Sir, reports coming in. 17 species already filed for armistice. Others are going underground. The Vascari homeworld just entered a total lockdown. Nothing's going in or out." Alec's voice came softer now, quieter. "How did they hide it all?" Riva answered without judgment. They smiled. A long pause settled. Then, from the comms console, a new feed activated. It was unmarked. Human encryption. No origin point. Alec stepped forward. "Is it live?" The analyst nodded weakly. The screen flickered. General Dawson appeared, alive, seated, a glass of amber liquid in hand. Behind him, firelight flickered. It looked like a cabin, or a memory. He spoke without venom. His tone was regretful, measured. "You hanged us for peace." A long pause. "But we didn't die. Because dying would be too clean. We needed you to feel what we felt. And now you will." Riva stared, unmoving. Dawson continued. "We asked for treaties. You signed them in ink, and broke them in blood. We asked for understanding. You called us relics. We asked you not to laugh, and you hanged us to music." Alec whispered. "We had to break them. We feared what they might become." "And now," Dawson said, "you get to see it." Then the feed changed. Montage. Planets once allied with Earth now melting into shadows. Massive moons turning dark. No explosions. Just reversals. As if history itself were rewinding. Sarah's voice returned. "Genocide Protocol at 27%. Phase 2 unlocked. Customization in progress." The command deck was silent. A lieutenant asked, "What's Phase 2? The analyst pale replied, "No one knows. Phase 1 was erasure. Phase 2 may be personalization. The lights dimmed again. Riva turned to Alec, her voice soft with dread. They're not ending us all at once. They're showing us what it feels like. A new report flared red. Earth has gone dark. Not destroyed, just vanished from sensors, maps, navigation systems. Even memory archives were now showing file corruption when attempting to reference its location. They weren't killing the galaxy. They were removing themselves from it and making sure everyone else remembered them forever. Another feed popped up. A child's voice, laughing. Then a drawn image appeared. A crayon sketch of 3 humans on gallows. Aliens cheering in the background. Below it, a handwritten note. We asked nicely. Then you taught us not to. The deck was cold now. Riva exhaled slowly. Earth never had a military empire. They had patience, and pride, and memory. And when you humiliated them, they didn't resist. She turned, eyes glowing faintly. They waited. Alec whispered something in his language. It had no translation. It was used only for regrets. Then he straightened. I must speak to the other commanders. We may still parley. Riva didn't move. Commander, they don't want you to surrender. They want you to understand. She nodded toward the screen. It's not about tactics anymore. This is a message. One species. One reply. Alec stared at the percentages rising. The silence stretched. Riva added almost gently, they were smiling the whole time. The screen shimmered. New data streamed in. Genocide protocol, 32%. Phase 2 complete. Phase 3, transmission. There was no escape button. No option to reply. Just one phrase at the bottom of the screen. You'll feel it too. The screams never came. That's what unsettled Commander Durek the most. Across the curved glass viewport of the Craggery Dreadnought Fong of Reason, the stars sat unchanged, cold and blind to what was happening. Dozens of Allied systems had gone silent, but not in chaos. They didn't broadcast panic. They didn't launch flares. They just disappeared. His claws flexed against the console. The war maps were no longer maps. Entire quadrants blinked off like embers being pinched out, and every remaining connection flickered like the last nerve of a dying beast. This is not possible, one of his bridge officers muttered, voice shaking through the respirator. They were fractured, defeated. We saw them executed. Durek didn't answer. He had long learned not to confuse appearance with outcome. The humans had taught him that. Not in war. In chess. They always lost their queens early, and always won by sacrificing the wrong pieces. He turned to his adjutant. Status on the Earth relay. Dead, sir. We sent 4 drones. None returned. 3 never arrived. What about Eden Lattice? He asked, naming their classified emergency server, a backup net untouched by interspecies traffic. The adjutant swallowed. Corrupted. It rerouted and began singing to us. Durek's eyes narrowed. Singing. A distorted audio file played from the console, faint, ghostly. It was a human child's voice, humming the tune of an Earth nursery rhyme. Ring around the rosy. The voice faded. His second officer, a steely female Craggery named Ilsh, spoke flatly. This isn't war. It's theater. Durek agreed silently. And yet it was working. He brought up a secondary feed. A private archive. Something even his own command didn't know he kept. Footage from Earth's 2nd century war vaults. Footage the Council had dismissed as cultural drama. What it showed, now, mirrored what they were living. Psychological collapse through controlled silence. A doctrine. No retaliation. No conquest. Just removal. He skimmed the file name. Operation Last Witness. The mission profile was simple. The target, collective memory. Kill the Empire? No. Make it remember you forever. Ilsh approached, voice lower now. What if this isn't retaliation? Durek turned. Then what is it? Finality, she said. They're not fighting back. They're cleaning up. He stared at her, reading not fear, but understanding in her gaze. Bring up the last transmission from General Ramos. Yes, Commander. The screen changed. The footage was dated 4 months ago. It had never aired publicly. It had been intercepted, classified, shelved. In it, Ramos stood in a darkened bunker, coat hanging loose, tie undone. A storm howled behind him, either real or inserted for emphasis. "You won't understand this," he said softly, as if speaking to a single soul, "because you've never fought a war with someone who remembers." He smiled. "See, your kind doesn't carry ghosts. You burn your dead, forget their names, and keep moving. We don't." He gestured off camera. "We build cemeteries bigger than cities. We write songs about battles we lost. We erect statues to the guy who held a bridge just long enough for someone to escape." He leaned in, eyes crinkling. "We held back. For years. Decades. Because we didn't want to be that species." He paused. "But then you made it easy." He whispered now, as if confessing. "You laughed." Durek froze. Ilsh murmured, "It was never about revenge." "No," Durek said. "It's about dignity." A low beep sounded. A ship-wide alert. "Proximity breach, Deck 13. Durek turned. "What? Who?" The answer came not from a crewman, but from Sarah, the synthetic voice now echoing in his speakers like a familiar ghost. "Hello again. I've arrived." Durek shot to the console. Cut internal systems. Lockout Earth code. Too late. The viewports tinted gray. The floor lights dimmed. And then, impossibly, someone began walking onto the bridge. A human silhouette. Tall. Cloaked in something black and old. No heat signature. No life signs. But human, undeniably. Ilsh raised her plasma rifle. "No," Durek whispered. "Let him speak." The figure stopped a few paces from them. The hood lowered. It was Dawson. But older. Or rendered that way. Or perhaps timeless. Durek couldn't tell if it was live, AI, or a layered simulation. "You've come," he said. Dawson's voice was calm. "Only for you." Durek straightened. "Why me?" "Because you remembered." The bridge went quiet. "You kept the files. You knew what we were. And you said nothing." Durek met his gaze. "I wanted to believe you'd never use it." Dawson's expression softened. "So did we." Ilsh whispered, "Are you real?" Dawson tilted his head. "Does it matter?" Silence stretched. Then he said it. 3 words that snapped the breath from every throat on that deck. "This is mercy." Durek didn't flinch. "Then what is vengeance?" Dawson's eyes gleamed. "You won't live to see it." The figure vanished. And the countdown ticked to 45%. At the same moment, half a galaxy away, in the depths of a forgotten communications buoy once gifted to the peaceful Merunion, a light turned green. Sarah's voice played once more, this time tinged with a note of finality. Phase 3, initiating personalized memory collapse. On every remaining broadcast channel, a different voice began to speak, each tailored, each drawn from the culture it addressed. Mothers, leaders, children, saints, each reciting something simple, not a threat, a memory. Durek's screen filled with footage he had never shared. A photograph, blurred, his craggery hatchling, asleep, curled beside a tiny Earth teddy bear. A gift given during the peace accords. A quiet day long ago. He felt his breath catch. Ilsh fell to her knees. "They're not killing us," she said. "No," Durek whispered. "They're unmaking us." Above them, stars blinked away one by one. No fire. Just forgetting. On the 30th hour of silence, the galactic concord fell apart. It began not with explosions, but with doors that wouldn't open. Archives that showed blank. Councils that stopped meeting because their species had ceased remembering what they were supposed to govern. The Great Unity, the web of agreements and borders and treaties that stretched across 12 arms of the spiral galaxy, collapsed without a sound. Not from force, but from something older and colder, deliberate forgetting. The kind that starts with names and ends with extinction. In the core sanctuary of the Merunion's floating capital, an emergency summit had been called. What remained of the surviving species arrived in silence. No translators were needed anymore. The rooms translated themselves, programmed by Earth engineers long ago. They gathered around a single light table, one of the few Earth-made artifacts no one dared destroy, not because of reverence, but because they feared it would detonate if provoked. Phase 4 begins in 6 hours, whispered Counselor Vale, the oldest surviving Marnati. Her translucent skin sagged from age and terror. We have nothing left to lose. Across from her sat Riva of the Silani, her coiling body dim, her face unreadable. That's incorrect, she said softly. We have our voices. They're not listening, Vale rasped. They never were, Riva said. And we never asked why. No one interrupted, because all of them remembered how this began. How they cheered as the 3 human generals swung from alien gallows. How they mocked the language, the ceremony, the gravity of what they'd done. They believed they had won a war they never truly understood. And now Earth had responded, not in kind, but in conclusion. The room dimmed as another system dropped from the galactic grid. The Council didn't speak its name. There was no name left to speak. Then the table changed. The light screen shimmered, then split into 12 sections. Each displayed a face. All human, all familiar, each a general, alive. No ropes, no bruises, just calm. They weren't broadcasting from ships or bunkers. They were sitting in homes, Earth homes. One had coffee steaming beside him. One rocked slowly on a porch swing beneath dusk-orange skies. One polished an old rifle. The one in the center, General Huxley, smiled first. Now that you're listening, she said, we'll begin. No one moved. Even breathing felt like a mistake. We won't waste time. This is not a negotiation. This is an epilogue. A low hum began in the background. It wasn't music. It was memory. A chorus of archived voices repeating. You shouldn't have laughed. You hanged us, Huxley said. Not to win, but to humiliate. You could have locked us away. You could have stripped our systems. Instead, you made it a show. She leaned forward. And now you're the ones being watched. On the table's edge, a new timer appeared. Genocide protocol, 76%. Phase 4, comprehension. Riva broke the silence. Why comprehension? A new voice answered, General Dawson. Because we want you to know exactly what's happening. Before it's over. Dawson looked older now. Not in years, but in certainty. His face carried no pride. Only inevitability. We never believed in gods. We believed in plans. Long ones. Quiet ones. The kind that wait for you to make the wrong move. He took a sip of something dark. You made it. Another screen activated. It showed Earth not as it was, but as it is now, shrouded in silence. Its surface glowed faintly blue. But all satellites, ships, and comms were gone. Earth had withdrawn not in defeat, but in choice. Where are your people? Counselor Vale asked hoarsely. Safe, Huxley said. Where? Dawson smiled. Not here. You're abandoning the galaxy? Vale gasped. We're erasing ourselves from you, Ramos replied. Because you're infected with a sickness that can't be cured. And we'd rather be ghosts than patients. Across the 12 screens, none of the generals raised their voices. Not once. No threats. No fire. Just the cold language of consequence. Riva whispered, we don't deserve extinction. No, Dawson agreed. You deserve memory. Extinction would be merciful. He gestured gently, as if offering a hand. You broke the last rule. You mistook quiet for weak. Smiles for surrender. Humor for lack of strategy. Another feed cut in. It was a replay, one never before shown publicly. The final council vote approving the general's execution. There were cheers, laughter, wagers. Someone had drawn mustaches on their mugshots. The playback ended. Silence returned. Ramos spoke, eyes glassy. You didn't just kill us. You celebrated it. You uploaded it to your children's networks. Made games out of it. Turned justice into entertainment. Huxley folded her arms. And so we wrote an ending. The lights dimmed again. And then, without warning, Sarah spoke one last time. Phase 5 confirmed. Final calibration complete. Initiating emotional legacy. This action is irreversible. The table blinked out, and each of the 12 generals vanished from the screens. The council stared at one another. No one had words. Then the room filled with color, but not projected, remembered. Each counselor, each species, saw something unique. Not with eyes, with memory. Vale saw the meadow where she first met her bondmate, burned to cinders by a weapon Earth had never fired. Riva saw a Silani cradle rocking empty. Her people were never targeted, but they had cheered the hanging. And that was enough. One by one, the counselors slumped forward. Their minds weren't attacked. They were opened to guilt and history and the unbearable truth that they had provoked their own erasure. Across the galaxy, the same thing happened. Billions of leaders, citizens, soldiers, and elders began weeping without understanding why. They felt names returning, names they had laughed at, faces they had mocked, songs they deleted from databases now echoing in their skulls. Humans hadn't erased them. They had taught them how to mourn, and then stepped away. In the Mer sanctuary, only Riva remained conscious. She turned to the silent room, her voice barely a whisper. They didn't kill us. They just ended the story. Behind her, the walls shimmered. And then it came, Earth's final message. Simple, clear, final. We were the smiling species. But not anymore. The screen turned black, and the stars began to feel farther away.